Welcome to the Three Good Sirs show on twitch.tv. It's hosted by myself, Travis Hymas, along with Matthew Brown and Peter. In just a moment, you're going to be joining us for discussions on current gaming news, game design, industry moves, and interacting with you, the audience. We're going to be pulling directly from the Twitch chat, so definitely be using that during the show. Even now, please use the chat to give us questions and topics to try to talk about this week. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you'll find it good enough. While you're waiting for the show to begin, we also have a Twitter feed that we will be using. You can follow us at 3 Good Sirs. That's the number 3 Good Sirs. We're going to be starting in just a moment. You're entering the 3 Good Sirs show. Please be aware that this is a live stream show, and if some rating branch was going to rate us, it would be PG-13. Opinions expressed are those of the speakers only, and should not be seen as a reflection of the entire group's opinion. Harassment in Twitch chat is not tolerated. Don't be that guy, so we don't have to be that other guy. Alright. 3, 2, 1. Hello, Internet! We're coming to you live from a bedroom somewhere. My name is Travis, and I am joined here by Matt.
Hi, guys.
Here on my left, and Peter over here on my right.
That guy.
He says words too, he just is not right now.
So I am capable of speech, yeah.
Welcome to the 3 Good Sirs show. This is just basically 3 fine gentlemen here, sitting and discussing video games. I don't really have anything introductory to say. Is there anything you guys want to kick off the show with? Anything like that?
It was our first show, so for all you guys that are here and all you guys that will be here, thank you for joining us. We will be doing this Saturdays at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
Mountain Standard.
Give or take a couple of minutes, because sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do.
Sometimes GarageBand sucks. So
yeah,
that's
issues and all.
Yeah.
But I believe you had gaming news.
Yes, I guess we'll just get started. So, news of the week. It was a big week, actually, so this is a good week for us to start. First of all, VR is live. It is in the wild, and so far the reviews are, to quote Gizmodo, this shit is dope. Like, that was the review. That was right there. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
How professional.
VR is kind of that tricky thing, though. Mostly because of the hardware requirements. Everything that's on the market right now is like $600, $700, $800 plus the cost of the hardware. So you actually need a PC capable of playing it. And it's the crisis scenario where if you actually want to get the most out of it, you basically need a future computer from space. Plus an Xbox 360 controller on top of all that, because at least with the Oculus, it's not in the box.
Unless you're with T-Mobile and they give you a free VR.
And they give you
they
could
have done for
I
me.
actually have a Gear VR on the way, so when I get that eventually, we will play with that. I think not for porn.
In that way,
not for porn.
That's what the internet is for.
That's
porn.
the
Yes.
Well, not also. Here, because that
not together. Don't worry about
it. No, so couple of things though with the VR thing. Did you guys see that Palmer Luckey delivered the first Oculus Rift?
No, did not.
Okay, it is the most awkward thing on the entire planet, because this guy that he delivered it to had no idea that this was going to happen. So literally it's just the day his order's supposed to arrive. They didn't actually ship it. Like, there was a tracking number and everything. They didn't actually ship it, though, like in the mail. Yeah, it's on the hush hush. So he gets this knock on the door, and it's Palmer Luckey, and like they recorded this whole thing. You can watch it on YouTube.
I also don't even know who.
Try to find it. He's the CEO of Oculus. So you say that,
yeah,
and it's funny because this guy answers the door like he has no idea who the hell's at the door.
I don't know who
and
you
like,
are. What are you trying?
Yeah,
to
and so then Palmer
exactly.
Luckey goes right into this guy's house, opens his freaking box, like signs the equipment and everything, and
like
it is
a celebrity.
Yeah, and it's so
like
uncomfortable. Like, I understand what he was trying to do. He was trying to like make a point in how invested he is, and the Oculus has been a very big deal, but this is genuinely uncomfortable to watch. And the best part, and I think it was like I was listening to maybe the Podquisition, somebody pointed it out. What if he's a scalper? What if this guy was just going to flip this on the internet?
He certainly could.
Well, yeah, but now everybody knows that's the one. So, like, it's just like this weird situation, and
maybe this is his origin story of becoming a scalper.
And Palmer Luckey is the most awkward dude in the world right now in gaming. Like, you saw that Time. Did you guys see the Time magazine cover with him on it? And
no.
Did you see the memes that came out of it? Though, yeah.
I'm down with some dank memes any day.
Memes. Yeah, and it's pretty great. So anyway, the other thing though is this GIF here. Matt's pulling it up right now. There is this GIF of this kid about to just eat it. So just hang on. This is great. He's using the Vive right now. There's not even carpet there.
That poor kid.
Apparently, this is like a game developer for VR.
See what he tripped on.
Yeah, so he thinks it's a desk. If you look up here,
there's a desk in the VR
at the top there, and he just eats the floor right there. It is
Note
amazing.
to self: not everything is as it seems when you're wearing.
Like he gives, some game developer just gives his kid the freaking $700 HTC Vive, and he's like, "Here, go ahead and do
crazy."
This." And and it's hilarious. So that's been going around too. But VR, big thing. And moving right along about computers and stuff. Let's talk about Watch Paint Dry, the game.
Just a word to you guys. I do this on the regular anyways.
Watch Paint Dry.
I watch paint dry. I live a very boring and sordid life. So the fact that this still amuses me, that shows you how awesome it is.
Okay, so here's the thing about Watch Paint Dry. Here's Peter doesn't know anything about this, so this is Watch Paint Dry is a 45-second long game about watching paint dry.
But it was approved through Steam.
No, it wasn't.
No,
this is the trick. This was actually not a game. Is the trick here? That's why it's 45 seconds long. It's literally just a video. This was done by somebody who used code. He basically exploited Valve's own code to create a developer account, get his own game okayed. Like, he made fake trading cards. Like, there's no actual trading cards on his site.
Amazing.
He went in and coded this.
Terrible.
And he's 16. So if you've ever thought to yourself, Valve has absolutely no quality control, they literally don't. Because guess what happened after this? Valve goes, oh, great. And they've done nothing about it. It's hilarious. They're like, oh, this happened.
Their response was, that was funny. Ha ha ha.
So, okay, now this guy, he's an InfoSec guy. So this is a really smart kid. He graduated high school 14. He's doing college courses right now and kind of supplanting his income by being a white hat InfoSec guy, like exploiting things. And companies like Microsoft... Yeah, and he did. And companies like Microsoft and Google will do what's called a bug bounty. Mm-hmm. So they'll pay them, they'll pay them for like, oh, you caught us with our pants down. Good job. This makes it better for everyone. And they pay them. And there are actually people in InfoSec who, like, they have regular jobs in that community and everything. But then they will do this on the fly, too. Valve was like, no. They're like, no, we're not going to pay you. They let him keep his developer account.
Which is surprising.
So that he can find more exploits. But the way that he explained it, and he did a couple of interviews with a couple of sites, but the way he basically explained it, and he sent this to Gabe too, so Gabe is involved in this, he's like, look, people aren't going to do bug hunts without some motivation to do so.
Exactly.
And there are some companies who will do like conferences. Google actually has a conference. Did you hear about the guy who caught Google's domain expiration before they did?
I did. That was amazing.
They paid him a Google amount of money, like Google spelled out in numbers. It just in a check, not for the domain. Like, he actually just gave that back to them.
He legally had the domain.
He had the domain for 12 minutes.
That's amazing.
And then gave it back to them, and they were like,
for like $3 or something like that.
Yeah, for $3. He owned Google.com for 12 minutes, and they paid him because he helped. It was to help.
Found a flaw in the system.
Yeah. This kid has literally been doing this stuff since he was 11.
Okay.
And it's just incredibly hilarious. And I guess like he's threatened to post the lyrics to Space Jam, the song, and stuff. But yeah, so 16-year-old kid literally just completely caught Valve with their pants down, and Valve is because they don't care. There's no there are other sites that obviously sell games and everything, but they're not Steam.
It's not Steam.
But I mean, if you're wondering how that Christmas incident happened.
They don't care.
They don't care.
See, and the worst part of that is, here, look at this kid, okay? This kid is obviously an incredible specimen, period. Mm-hmm. He graduated and started pursuing college at 14. Do you know what we were doing at 14? This guy was in a box that we pushed down the stairs and filmed it because we thought it was funny. And then we wouldn't even let him out. Like, we put a helmet on him and gave him a pillow.
Those were the days, yeah.
So that's the kind of thing we were doing when we were 14. This kid is finishing school and actually pursuing something in information technology, which, I mean, is literally one of the most unkillable fields.
Than down the stairs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know much. It's a little more respectable. But the point is, this kid is pursuing something so awesome. We are going in the absolute sheer direction of an information age. Period. We are already there, but all we're going to do from this point further is progress. And this kid is literally choosing to do with his life a field that is never going to die. Mm-hmm. And he's choosing to actually pursue something that can help better humanity. Yes, he's doing it in the form of, watching some paint dry. But the actions behind it and the heart behind those actions is insane, because Steam is such a part of our community as gamers. Steam is part of who we are as gamers, whether you're a console gamer, PC gamer,
the top
handheld
PC distributor.
Yeah, right?
So.
Whatever you are, even if you don't actually game on PC, Steam still impacts your life. Mm-hmm. And the fact that this kid pointed out such a large vulnerability and a large thing, and Steam's reaction was, that was funny, I guess.
No, and it was literally just like going into Ruby on Rails and just child's play. Like, the cool thing is these people will post about them, so you could actually in theory do it, but they won't post the information that they found.
I couldn't
until they have let the companies know, so the companies can patch them out. Except again, in the case of Valve, if there's no incentive to do that, nobody's going to do it. And obviously, Valve's team isn't on top of things. But we'll move on.
We'll honestly just have to wait and see how they respond, or if at all.
There will be some
acknowledged
progression.
it. They acknowledged it, so there will be something.
There will be something. This is not Half-Life 3. Something will happen here. Okay.
It's actually funny. He joked.
I'm sorry that I delayed the game for you guys.
He joked actually with the Kotaku guy he was talking to. He was like, I was tempted to just put up Half-Life 3, but I figured they'd sue me.
That's fair.
It's fair. Okay, so speaking of things that you think aren't going to happen, but totally apparently are, there is a rumor, we're going to move over to consoles right now, of the PlayStation 4.5, 4K, whatever, an itinerative upgrade, kind of similar to like the new 3DS, where the hardware is actually different. The rumor is right now like being able to play 4K resolution content, read 4K Blu-ray discs, what the regular PS4 can't do, stuff like that. And right now, the current word is that this may even actually happen before the PlayStation VR launches this year, which is baffling to me. I don't think this is a good idea, mostly because the only reason why I would see this being rational right now for like a game console is the fact that so many game console titles have had an absolutely nightmarish time getting proper resolution right now.
What are you talking about, Travis?
Yeah, like, you spend an entire decade of a game generation talking about graphics and how pretty things are and polygons and emotions and things, and then making fun of David Cage there. But
and at that point, like, they're just sacrificing so much in a game just for quality graphics.
And then when they come out with this new hardware and it's physically not up to snuff, it's just simply is nonsense. And just nonsense. And so this is apparently going to happen. The Xbox One is also apparently looking at this. The comments from Phil Spencer over Microsoft account is more or less not a whole, like, oh, here's a whole new box with all new stuff, but where they would actually let people make hardware changes to the one, which is better. But again, like, mom and dad aren't buying their kids video game consoles to teach them how to build a PC. No. They are buying a video game machine to play video games on. And when you're creating a product and then fracturing that market, it just, I don't know, this is like one of those things that's going to railroad console gaming into the ground. And that sucks to me. I don't know. What do you get? You guys are mostly PC gamers for the most part.
Pretty much, yeah.
For the most part, but, you know, honestly, so I'm 50-50 on the whole issue. Like, let's not kid ourselves. It's not like this precedent hasn't been set before with upgrading too fast, bringing out new hardware far too fast. This
HD DVD.
Nintendo.
Oh, jeez. And so, okay. Since you're bringing it up, let's...
And now they're dropping it already.
Well, Nintendo... Apparently, the reason they're even going to try to get away with this is because Nintendo needs new hardware out, which, I mean, I love the Wii U more than life.
Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, well, I've loved every game. I'm wearing a Splatoon shirt. I mean, I love the dang thing. Splatoon is amazing.
Really done well.
It is life. But...
You can also draw dicks on it.
Yes, you can. Well, so, the new Nintendo 3DS, I brought that up. I have one.
And I don't anymore.
He lost his. Long story.
Yes.
But Hyrule Warriors, they ported Hyrule Warriors.
Barely Vertical. Thank you for following.
Thank you, sir. Hyrule Warriors was ported to it last week, and it runs just fine on the new 3DS.
The new 3DS.
It's graphically, you know, downscaled, but of course it's for a portable. That's not why I play it on my 3DS. It's because I want hack and slash things. That being said, it is not labeled. Well, okay, it's hack and slash. No,
I know okay. That's not an accurate.
We're going to come back to that though, because I do have a question for you. Going back to this whole hardware thing,
it's not. Hack and slash.
So, Dynasty Warriors isn't hard. Now the box for Hyrule Warriors Legends is not labeled only for the new Nintendo 3DS. So, like, when Xenoblade Chronicles was released, they actually moved everything about the box around so you could visually tell this is not going to work on the current hardware. They've only done that for that game because it's been the only one that's been affected. Hyrule Warriors Legends.
Lindy Marie's following us. Welcome to the channel, Lindy babe. How's it going,
dude?
A couple weeks.
Thank you.
It's been a minute.
So
on the regular 3DS. Yes,
it's garbage. It is garbage. It dips to 12 frames a second. It is unacceptable
12 is generous.
Yeah,
12 frames per second is generous.
Digital Foundry did a comparison of all three of them, which actually makes Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U look like crap too. When you look at like how it's actually running, I didn't even realize it's only running at 30 frames per second at like a lower resolution. I'm like,
and it's not
it doesn't
intended
even
to
work
run
like
at a 30.
Well, no, Hyrule Warriors, like on the Wii U, it was, and it's locked at that, and it's fine for what it is. It's passable for the hardware that the Wii U is, even though Super Smash Bros. Has 8-player mode at 60 frames per second. Just saying.
Look, I'm spoiled by PC gaming. I run everything at 60 frames per second, and 30 frames is still fine.
30 is acceptable, but it's getting to the point where it's not. But specifically looking at this, how do we know that this isn't going to happen with the PlayStation 4? Which brings me, Peter, what happens when the Bloodborne sequel inevitably gets announced and it's only going to work on this new one?
See, when Bloodborne was released as an exclusive game for the PlayStation, I bought a PlayStation.
Yeah, so are you just going to go buy another one?
Likely.
If he has to.
See, here's my thing. There's an easy way to pull this off. Sony, do a trade-in program. Upgrade my hardware for me for like $100, $150. I'll mail it to you. You make the changes you need to make or whatever.
Okay with that.
Done. Cool. I'll upgrade. But
Okay,
I'm not buying a whole new console.
That's actually a really good question that Barely Vertical just asked. Are we becoming greedy on graphics? What do you guys think of that topic?
Graphics is
are we becoming
priority in what makes a quality game, in my opinion.
I think.
Well, as a gaming industry, as gamers,
I think
overall,
I think
we becoming
industry
greedy?
is very important to keep in mind there because we're not necessarily greedy on graphics so much as we've been told for again about a decade or so of the last generation that's what was so important. Like, why did the Wii, the original Wii, why didn't people port to that? Well, because they had to downscale and they couldn't advertise the graphical thing. Think about Ubisoft basically just throwing words like iconic and and cinematic around, like they're visual words. There's been such a focus on it, and I think a part of it might come from like the 64-bit era because let's face it, none of those games aged well visually.
Well, they were trying to do something new.
Visually. They didn't age well.
There are older games that just have a more appealing art style that is more timeless.
They aged better.
That's exactly they did, and that's just the art direction they chose.
Now there's a big but with that.
Will always be
if you're buying a 980 giant graphics card.
If you're using two 980 Ti's,
you should have the ability to play with that. Beautiful. If somebody's going to release a game on the PC market and target that hardcore crowd, they need to be able to meet that. I mean, PC gamers are the gearheads of gaming. They're like people working on cars. And it's important that they can get what they need from that. That's not a problem to me. I don't think that's greedy. I think it's expecting what you were promised. And I don't think that's bad.
Hey, Crystal's following us. Thanks for following, Crystal. Let us know if you got any question topics that you want us to follow.
More finger points.
We can talk about Undertale if you want, because it's your favorite game in the world. But honestly, from my perspective, so here's the thing. I don't think we're getting too greedy on graphics. Because of the things that we've been shown in that graphics are not what make a game successful.
However, the industry is telling us that that's what
AAA gaming.
They're trying to
AAA.
But so Crystal just came and Crystal just followed us. Crystal loves Undertale.
Oh yeah.
Look at Undertale. No, Undertale is not like a multi-gajillion dollar game or anything.
By one person.
One guy made it.
Beautiful looking game.
It is not. This is not Final Fantasy 15 graphics here. This is little sprites that this guy made in Game Maker or whatever. Threw it together.
Maker,
But I've been personally on my own stream. I've been playing through that. Sorry that we haven't been meeting for a little bit, Crystal. We've been preparing for this, but that game is absolutely stunning in its own way.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's where the important distinction becomes graphical output.
The story is just so impactful. The characters are memorable. They have personality.
Well,
even in the graphics, the very minimal graphics that they use.
Well, and graphics and art design are two different things. Why is a Nintendo game so iconic? It's not necessarily the graphical output, although recent Mario games and everything have been graphically very visual.
Oh, yeah.
It's not because you can see every fiber of Mario's overalls. It's because it's very well designed. Undertale is very well designed. It knows its aesthetic.
Certainly.
It hammers it home. Particularly in Undertale, it's very much important to the design of the game. But even something like... I'm trying to find a really good recent example of one. even Minecraft, when you think about, like, just the reason Minecraft works so well. It's a building game, but it's a building game where you visually can see what's happening as you go. Like, it's very blocky in everything, honestly, but it's not because it's, like, 8-bit. I wouldn't call it 8-bit.
Looking game. I mean, I like the design of the artwork they chose. The gameplay didn't appeal to me specifically. Yeah. Well,
when you think about just the indie market can get a much better game out on a lower graphical output with clever art design, like Shantae or something.
And that's what they have.
Sword.
That's what they have, because I mean, a AAA company has 100 plus designers.
Is that Murder Dog?
Lindy, I've never heard of that before, but that is fantastic.
Oh my god!
This is the game. If I can get this over here, stupid thing.
Windows!
Oh, damn you, Windows. That's alright.
Difficulties.
Windows!
It's alright. But I'm going to go ahead and throw this up. This is the game that Lindy is talking about right here. Murder Dog. Apparently this is how the graphics look for this beautiful game.
Oh my god, I love it.
Now, don't get me wrong.
What is this game about?
Don't get me wrong. Lindy, fill us in. What's this game about? But don't get me wrong. That is like... I don't think I could draw even that well.
I would play the crap out of that.
Oh, you should see the things I draw in paint. And you in the past.
I'm not going to show the things I draw in paint.
Yeah, well, this is...
At least not
we're
right
PG-13, not NC-17.
That's the one.
Yeah, this is not pornography. Twitch has a thing about that, I believe.
Which is a damn shame.
Unfortunately.
Another... jeez. Yeah, art design, that's a whole... That's the whole thing. Have you guys seen Drawn to... what is it?
Drawn to Life?
Not Drawn to Life.
Drawn Together?
No, it's a game by David Jaffe, who did Twisted Metal. It's coming out on the PS4. Drawn to Death. There it is. It is a fighting game, but it looks like a high school kid's notebook sketches.
That's actually really cool.
And it looks fantastic.
You get an image of that.
Yeah, throw some of these up here if you can. Windows!
It's alright, let's do it this way. We can just have this. So, here's some of the images from that game.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
I've been following this for
fantastic.
But it's not...
There's not a lot of substance, like, story-wise, as far as I can tell right now. I mean, there's apparently a story, but it's a fighting game, so who cares? But look at how visually it is.
I like it.
That's art design right there. That is,
and that creates
art.
A timeless game.
Exactly. That will age. I can tell you. And it looks so... Look at that. It's a dinosaur cannon. I mean, who's not on board with that?
I'm beyond on board
That this is the Twisted Metal guy just sells it for me so much. I love Twisted Metal. So dumb. Okay. Well, art design. With art design, as with that in mind, with art design and developers making choices.
Oh, boy.
Let's talk about butts.
I love those.
Let's talk about butts. It's where your poop comes out. They're pretty, and apparently in Overwatch, depending on who your character is, maybe you shouldn't show it off. So have either of you guys even played Overwatch?
Because some of the other characters in Overwatch are more sexualized than this.
Well, I think it has to come down to character traits is the issue. Let me explain the issue first.
She basically wearing yoga pants.
Well, let me dig into this.
A butt.
Yeah, let me dig into this really quick. Hang on.
Form figure. That's realistic to me.
Hold on. Let me step back here. So here's what happens.
There's an overarching story.
There's a story here, and the story is important in order to I think critically assess this. So Overwatch is in beta, and it's important to stress that it's not just in beta. It's not playable right now in beta. It was in beta, playable. They pulled it. Yeah, we're gonna dig into the butt. It's not playable at the moment. It's currently being rehashed again before it's re-released in beta form. And this is a game that will be sold for money. These are all things to keep in mind.
They didn't let me in, those bastards.
Yeah, they didn't let you in. So Overwatch...
Unless you're watching, then I'm sorry.
Does have forums and everything to get feedback from the beta and from character designs and everything like that. And it's important to keep in mind that Blizzard, as of late, has been very aware of the place it has in gaming culture, in that its character designs and mentalities can influence attitudes.
I dare say they've done a good job of it.
Yeah. I think that Blizzard is the only major developer that has actually stood up in a official sense and told people to not be assholes and harass each other. and it was happening in 2014 when like Gamergate was first getting up, and we'll get into that later. When it was first getting really bad, and the boss of Blizzard got on stage during BlizzCon, the very first thing he did and said, "This is unacceptable." So they have a heart about this, and so with Overwatch, basically, there were some commentary on Tracer, a character. I don't know if you can pull it up, Matt. I can send you this link here. I'm going to send you this particular story, Matt, because I want you to actually look at the 2 pictures that are in it. I think it's important to kind of get a grasp of it. So I just sent that to you in our little personal chat. But Tracer is one of the characters in Overwatch. And I'm not going to explain what Overwatch is because I don't have all day. She's kind of designed as a spunky character. So here's the Polygon story he's going to throw up here. I want you to look at the images here. So this first image here that he's putting up is Tracer in action. This is, I think, from the CG trailer.
Yes.
So this is kind of your design of her. It's important to stress kind of the spunkiness and everything. But what the commentary on some of the blog is if you scroll down, this victory pose that you can set for Tracer, where she's kind of doing a hip thing with the Lara Croft, like, lean in. It's called over the shoulder. This is not the only character with this type of pose. There are including male characters, but basically the conversation started where they were like, "Is this appropriate for Tracer's characterization?" She's kind of younger, a little bit spunkier, things like that.
She's not a sex icon.
Yeah, she's not like Widowmaker, which is kind of the one that everybody draws up. Widowmaker's kind of your Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff type. That's all important context. Basically, the problem that caused this into a controversy is that instead of... Yeah, there's Widowmaker right there. So you can kind of see she's got the plunging neckline. She kind of reminds me of Miranda from Mass Effect.
A little bit, yeah.
And I love Miranda, but yeah, see, there she is. You can kind of tell. She's even got all right, let's talk about butts. There's a defined butt even from that side.
Ooh, if there ever is.
There's your yoga pants argument, but I mean, like, this was actually from a characteristic standpoint. And character, especially in a game that's character heavy, but not like story heavy. Where it's multiplayer focused. These designs are so important because they're supposed to tell the whole story. And so, but basically the problem that came up was that instead of just making changes to the game like Blizzard probably should have, they went on to the original post, and it was Jeff Kaplan who went on there.
Brought up a stir.
He brought it up, and he said, "No, we agree." Now, it's important to stress that they internally discussed it, and then made a decision. So basically, a developer decided to do something in a game, and
which they are allowed to do.
Oh yeah. And then they went and pulled it, and they're going to pull it. Basically, again, it's not in the game right now because the game's not playable.
And that's okay if they choose to change their design, change their own game that they're making. That's okay. The context changes if it's complained about, and they're like, "Okay, we will just submit to the complaints and we'll change this."
But that
even though it
almost
ruins
never
the
happens.
consistency of the character.
But that almost
it's
never
not really
happens.
That case.
Like,
they've
people are just paranoid.
But Travis,
they did decide that, like, yes, this does not accurately represent the character we want to portray. That's okay.
And this isn't even the first but that has caused this too.
Oh, actually,
because there is Mika. Do you guys know about Mika?
No.
I do know about
Mika, Rainbow Mika.
Take it away.
So during the development of Street Fighter V, a game which is not completely a game, this is Mika. Now, it's important to note, this is Mika as she appears in... This is how she appears in the game. So nothing was actually done to her character.
No. She's still 100% right there.
That is Mika, everyone. Now, with oh god, I would play as Zangief in that costume. Actually, he's wearing more clothes in that costume. Okay, so tangent. One of the DLC costumes for Zangief for Street Fighter V is literally turning Zangief into Macho Man Randy Savage.
I'm okay with that.
Where was that in the main game, Capcom? Come on, I would have given you a whole pass on
All
everything.
I'm saying is, I want some Slim Jims now.
Oh yeah!
Anyways.
So Armika, one of her... When she uses her V skill, in the original trailer, the very early trailer, her announcement trailer, for a game that was very much in development and can be argued is still in development, even though it's being sold for $60, she basically does this big ol', like, in the camera slap. Ooh, it's down there! Go ahead and bring that up!
I don't know if it's a GIF.
It's not a GIF, but there's a zoom in of it. There,
it's all right. We have the power of Google.
Fair enough.
Power of Google. So she does that. That doesn't end, like, that's like a celebration thing or whatever.
Like,
this is not in the actual game. Now, again, it's worth arguing there's a lot that's not in Street Fighter V that has been in other games.
It really isn't.
But basically, Capcom had that in the trailer and then just decided they just like, we don't like it. They never said any, like, there was no blog post or anything. They just pulled it and people noticed it wasn't there in the Street Fighter beta. And people were like, well, why did you cave? And they're like, we just didn't like it. I mean, they didn't change anything. Her V skill is still basically crushing someone between her butt cheeks.
She crushes you basically to smithereens with another female character
between
with
her
her
cheeks.
butt.
Like,
so let's not pretend there's still not, like, just overt sexual tones.
Yeah. And somebody pointed out, I think it was Crystal, the first mod was to put that back in. Like, people are going to do it anyway. I guess, like, my biggest thing is if it's not a big deal and people shouldn't complain about it or people shouldn't like it or whatever, which people are entitled to their opinion, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it such a big deal when they do pull it out? Like, if it's not that big of a deal, why is it when it's getting pulled out?
Kind of going back to the reasoning of why they're going to pull something.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because people have complained and it's a controversial
and sure, but...
Or do they feel like their game overall will be better by pulling something?
Yeah, and then it's worth pointing out, though, that even if somebody is complaining, there's a valid complaint for it. Or the word "nerf now, please," or the phrase wouldn't exist. like where does this end where developers have to justify every edit? Like let's pull an ongoing like multiplayer game like League into this. Like how much of League is changed by feedback, and how much of that feedback is valid?
Pretty much all of it.
All of it.
A lot of it for the game balancing, not necessarily character design.
Well, yeah, sure, but character, as we were just discussing, that's a huge part of game too. That's just as important. So editing,
and don't get me wrong, character design has come
into
the League community in terms of like suggestions, different stuff like that in different ways. Like, there's been so many different skins that we, as League players, have just not felt like they were up to par with what we were purchasing, or there was things we didn't like them. So, it's something that you'll find in every game. Obviously, if they release a 2,000 RP skin that you're paying, upward, that's like $10 or something like that for.
Right.
You want the skin to be good.
Oh, yeah.
And that's happened so many times in the League community. But
different
back in regard simply to the origin of the story, this Overwatch character. You brought it up. I know you brought it up for a reason. The fact that they actually came out and they brought it up and they made something of it.
They kind of unintentionally made a big deal about it.
See, that right there, I think, was overall not even like the removal of that stance or anything like that.
Scroll down a little bit
was
more.
The biggest part of that I would say was a mistake.
Widowmaker, keep going. Yeah, see there, that's still in the game. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, they kind of unintentionally created controversy, and I've got another story about artificially created controversy based on a studio, a company's actions or lack thereof. So we'll get into that. But I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, where does editing end and censorship begin, and when should we just shut up? I mean, but dang, let's face it, the most important thing about Overwatch is that there's a gorilla in it.
Yeah.
I mean,
his name's Winston, and he'll wreck your shit.
And he's a gorilla.
So, Lindy, and I see you say that, but here's the amazing thing about being opinionated. The rest of America does it without knowing what they're talking about anyways. Yeah. The rest of the world does it. Don't ever dismiss yourself just because you feel like you're not educated enough. That's how forums and discussion are created. If you feel like you have an opinion about it, share your opinion, even if there's not like a full education behind it.
But if you want to be
that's how you learn
for your opinion.
Well, and that's
you
how you
should
learn.
Have a basis and understanding.
Well, just say, hey, this is what I think.
Oh yeah, you
help
can certainly
me.
Say.
It's
the way you present it.
Yeah.
If you present something as fact, and
people with opinions going
into
debates without knowledge, not willing to like gain knowledge, is like a kid wearing a VR headset and trying to touch a desk.
And Crystal, you are right. People are very, very sensitive to sexual content, and there's understandable reasons behind it.
Yes.
I mean, sexuality is such a huge part of our humanity. And people I know lots of people that are super sensitive to that content, and there's good reasons behind it. There's bad reasons behind it. It's just, you take it as it comes, but, and that, no pun intended.
Yeah. Well, okay, so since we're talking about it, we're getting into anime games and Japanese games explicitly. I'm going to go out of order.
Are developers pulling things because they want to or because they're pressured to? There's not really any like compliances that they have to follow. I mean,
is it going to sell?
Yeah,
that's really what it comes down to.
That's the compliancy they have to follow. I mean, you've seen some. Let's talk like horrible games for a second. We've seen come out. Like, how many have you guys played Manhunt? That was a game that existed.
The fact that you can put Hatred or Slave Tetris onto Steam with very little effort. Well, Hatred, yes. Hatred is garbage, by the way. Like, yes. It doesn't play well. Manhunt's violent, but at least it's a designed game. But, I mean, like Slave Tetris is a game on Steam.
I didn't know that.
With a little bit of, obviously, there's some different limitations there because they're not a AAA developer and they're not a
AAA developer. But the fact of the matter is like there is no big Jack Thompson style boogeyman anymore. Yes. Like we need to get over that as a whole.
They're not. There's no like compliance acts that they have to follow per se. I mean, obviously they still have to, they still have to submit their game to the ratings board. They have to receive a rating. That is a legal, that is a U.S. legal requirement.
It's actually not. It's not enforced.
To do certain things with the game. To do certain things with the game, that is a requirement. You don't have to do it for the game, but to do certain things,
the ESRB,
releasing certain markets, stuff like that.
The ESRB actually was developed internally by the ESA, so they work completely individually. The problem that comes up with that is that all the retailers, that's who they trust. So if you want your game to go on a shelf in a Walmart or a GameStop or
you need to
a
submit
Best Buy,
that to the ESRB.
The ESRB has to go through the ESRB, and if they give it an AO, for example, guess what? You're changing something in that game because it will not sell because no retailer will carry it. That's theoretical censorship, but it's also business.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, hot coffee. You all know about it.
Grand Theft Auto is the fun one I like because that one always gets the target for controversy and everything. And they started it.
See,
they did,
and it was the exact opposite too, because that was an M game that went to adults only due to
because of mods. Now it's important to stress that some of this especially in the early 2000s, I think it's gotten a lot better now because we just haven't had any problems. People just didn't understand how these things work because it happened to Oblivion also. Because what's the first mod that everybody makes? Nudes. Yes.
And keeping in mind that hot coffee mod, that was still something that was embedded into the game. So the mod was literally just completing the code and unlocking it. So here's my problem. It seems like video games are targeted for mature themes more than any other media outlet. Boobs in movies, not a big deal. Boobs in video games, and everyone loses their shit. I agree. You're absolutely right. But here's the thing.
Why?
Yes, here's the understanding behind that. Here's my point of view. Parents, they go out to the movies for a date night. You go out to the movies with your friends, whether you're 18, 24, whatever. Yeah. Movies are not a thing that 3-5-year-olds go and do together that much. Like they don't go out to the movies.
Is a different, like a higher art form than gaming. People still put their children in front of the game console and say, "Here, be babysat." And it's only going to get worse actually as gaming actually expands to like mobile and tablet games and stuff. It's only going to get worse. So,
but similar effect out of movies and other things.
Yeah, but they're not seen as children's toys.
Yes, they're viewed
not seen as
differently.
children.
It's viewed different.
Like gaming is often misunderstood.
That's why it happens.
It's misunderstood. Yeah,
that's why
it's understood that it's marketed towards kids only.
The important thing,
people, that's a misunderstanding.
The important thing is the law agrees that it's protected. So forget what the audience does.
Yes, that is the important thing.
That's not my concern.
But there is still the discussion behind it. I mean, you guys have all been on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and you've seen those memes or those posts or whatever, where it's like talking about that jerk friend that you have that sees you playing video games for 6 hours and why are you wasting your time? And they just watched 3 seasons of Friends in a row without leaving their bed.
Time spent having fun is not wasted.
Is not time wasted.
Yeah. It's just an issue of you're a child, you have a child's toy.
Time spent doing something you love is not time wasted. I've had fun, and it was time wasted.
Yeah. Fair. Okay, well, let's transition a little bit. Let's keep on this topic, but I'm going to get to my other news story. This is the thing that kind of grinded my gears this week. We're going to talk about Nintendo. If you follow me on Twitter, there's probably 1 million tweets out of me about this. Mm-hmm. This one has a huge history dating back a while. Short version, Fire Emblem Fates which I have played. I am continuing to play. There is nothing that has been changed in this game that has compromised the game in terms of like play or anything like that. It's important to stress that before I get into this. Fire Emblem Fates was localized, however, which means it was adopted for Western cultures and Western
which means
simplicities.
they have to meet certain standards and censors.
Not even, I wouldn't even say censorship, because it's just them determining based on a cultural analysis what is acceptable. Which is just, when you don't swear in front of a 3-year-old because you don't want him to swear.
And
like
that's
just choosing to act
change or edit those things.
Yeah, they will. That's editing,
controversial,
but it's not. It's not
region.
Censorship. Someone's not coming in with a bat with razor wire around it. Walking Dead, heads up.
Well, to be fair though,
crossing my fingers.
And nobody's going to do that. But Fire Emblem Fates might have controversy because Fire Emblem Fates had some weird stuff in it. Not weird for Japanese audiences.
No, but weird.
Weird. By the way, if you're like, oh, well, I play those anime games and everything. Okay, here's the thing.
Crystal does. I know Crystal does.
I'm sorry, real talk. You're the minority.
Seems like Crystal already knows.
Import your game if it's gonna be that thing. That's just kind of where I stand. If it's gonna be like, I need it in the purest form, do what the rest of us do. Find an original version. Anyway, and it's stupid because Nintendo region locks their stuff. I know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure all consoles are locked.
But no,
or were
no,
at least.
no. Just
Nintendo's
Nintendo.
the worst.
Just
offender.
Nintendo stuff right now is region locked.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, but sir, yeah.
The three of you could serve an entire Africa, probably.
Sure.
I don't know if that's a fat joke or if
but
we're just
anyway,
saying we're good at
so
talking.
Fire
Either
Emblem
way,
Fates, and I don't
right.
have all day to explain what was super weird, but there's like a petting thing where like you could like sit and poke your and pet on. You could do this to your characters in Fire Emblem. It was very waifu-ish. And that's for any character, including underage characters, family members. There was no, and by the way, you can still romance family members in Fire Emblem Fates. They didn't even take all the weird stuff out. Yeah, yeah.
To be fair, but I mean, Africa, I guess is
I guess
below that.
Why is my laptop silver? Because it's
It's a MacBook.
It's a MacBook.
It'll be okay.
Because it is.
You'll
Whatever.
be all right.
So they changed some things. They also changed some things in Xenoblade Chronicles X. And Matt, you've watched me play Xenoblade Chronicles X, and you have to probably agree with me. There's a 13-year-old girl that should not be able to wear certain clothing, and they changed that in Xenoblade Chronicles X for the US. These two games are important to keep in mind, because there were a lot of people, particularly in the Gamergate movement, but not all of them. Please don't harass me on the internet, please. Hashtag whatever. Who took offense to this, like it was like the ability to put a 13-year-old girl in a bikini was a moral outrage, and they basically tried to find somebody to blame for this. And instead of just being mad that Nintendo did a thing, which I get mad that Nintendo does a thing like every day, because Nintendo of America is the worst. They found Allison Rapp. Mm-hmm. Allison Rapp worked at Nintendo of America.
Past tense.
In the PR department, which means she is not on the localization team.
In any way, shape, or form.
Now, she is versed in Japanese culture. Her actual college thesis, which will come up here, was about Japanese culture, Japanese sexuality, and how Western culture and Western sexuality can't be applied in that way when we're talking about like laws and stuff.
Not entirely.
What was done by a lot of these people, and that makes sense. Well, what was done by these people online, they basically turned this into some sort of pro-pedophilia piece, and basically did this whole smear campaign online.
Around like that.
Yeah,
and that's my
but I've read it.
Issue,
if I've read it, read it. It's a very well-versed college thesis. Mm-hmm. But Japan is weird. I say that as an American. Japan is weird. A Japanese person in Japan doesn't see that stuff as weird. That's why localization exists.
Well,
but
Okay, so the stereotype of man, Japan is so weird. That's not everybody in Japan. That's a few people being weird.
Lady
and
Baby is one thing.
Even Japan thinks those people are weird.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Lady Baby is one of those things. But Japan is just different, and so they used it against her to smear campaign. And long story short, Nintendo ended up letting her go this week. And from her perspective, it was in relation to all the harassment she was taking and everything. They basically just didn't want to do anything about it. They didn't want to deal with it, and the easiest, safest route was to just say, okay, bye. Nintendo claims that it was because she was moonlighting in another job that they just didn't like. It's tricky to say, and stuff. And sorry, I had to pull my page back up. I apologize. They say it's because she was moonlighting. We don't know what she has admitted that she's moonlighting. She did have another job,
which is a no-no.
Well, apparently it's okay at Nintendo as long as it doesn't conflict with their corporate nature, which is okay. But nobody knows what the job was. So whatever you think it was, nobody knows what it was.
I think she taste tested ice cream.
Maybe, I don't know. And she did it anonymously. It's worth stressing.
Cereal, maybe.
It's worth stressing though. Like, it was under a pseudonym and everything. So basically, the only way Nintendo really found out is if it was like stalking her, or if these harassers were pulling this information and sending it to Nintendo and basically attacking that family-friendly image to a point where Nintendo basically would have either needed to stand up and defend their employee or let her go and just bury their heads in the sand. And because this is Nintendo and explaining something is absolutely beyond them, where's Zelda?
Hey, it's coming.
Hashtag where's Zelda? Where's Samus?
I would rather them just take their time.
Oh yeah, well,
yes, but information is nice.
Like,
I like.
We live in a world now where a forum post can help influence a game's design for the better potentially. We live in a world where game development is not secret. We're seeing the effects of it, and this goes back to the original discussion about like editing and stuff. Like, there's no reason for the treehouse to be Fort Knox anymore. There's no reason for Nintendo to act like it's Planet Kyoto, and they don't have an obligation to their audience. They do, and this is one of those things. Like, how do you find a PR person to blame for the localization of Fire Emblem Fates? Is because Nintendo doesn't bother to explain why it localized Fire Emblem Fates. Is it obligated to? Not necessarily. But if there's enough concern from the audience, even if it's for something dumb, even if Nintendo believes in it's the right and it is in the right, they can explain that. They can defend themselves. But Nintendo doesn't do those things. Nintendo is weird. And YouTube is also terrible about this also. And it's just a mess, because no matter whatever way you cut it, this woman was basically taking the flak for the company's decisions for months, and they did nothing about it except can her. And that's just not good to me.
That's a human being.
That is a person.
That is yes. There is an ideology behind that person. There is an ideology behind the company, but that is a human being that you are literally ruining the life of.
Yeah, and don't do that. If you're someone who's like, oh, I'm gonna hate you on Twitter, don't do a death threat.
It's the internet. You can't tell people not to say whatever they want on the internet.
Well, yeah, sure, but don't be a jerk. It seems like not that difficult. Then maybe there should be. I don't know. I'm not.
Well, how would that be applied?
I don't know. That's asking me to come up with something. I do like the general rule of just don't be a dick. But see, here's the problem: is you have people who push that too far. So my next story, I'm gonna turn the train here. Milo Yiannopoulos is a journalist at Breitbart, a very right-wing news outlet, who, by the way, 5 years ago was writing stories about how people who play video games are giant man-children and need to grow up. He basically took advantage of Gamergate, kind of these things, these hate campaigns, these assault campaigns, and he's basically stoked the fires using his news stories and his presence. And I mean, like you got to look at this picture of this guy. He is a piece of work.
Ooh, he's a babe.
He is a pretty boy, and
yes, they are.
And yes, they are. You're ruining the story for me, Peter. So here's the thing. He writes all these articles on Breitbart. He makes this whole big deal. He got a whole big stink about losing his verification on Twitter because he was harassing people. And there he is. Now here's the hook. That man on the screen is a real person, maybe named Milo Yiannopoulos. But what we know is that the internet persona of Milo and all the articles and everything on Breitbart and other publications that he was writing, this guy is literally 44 interns in a trench coat. Like, there are...
this guy is Vincent Adultman.
He's Vincent Adultman. So here it is. there's a former Breitbart employee, and if you don't know politics or anything like that, that place is like like falling apart within itself right now over Donald Trump. So there are people leaving left and right.
Lindy apparently doesn't think he's pretty.
Yeah, he's well, I mean, he might not even be real. So I mean,
So yeah, like
I've seen him like show up. He went to a Senate hearing about his Twitter verification. So like I know he's a person like that exists, but maybe that's not actually him. I don't know. Maybe he's an actor. Maybe it's the Mandarin from Iron Man.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the Mandarin from Iron Man 3. But so they basically, one of these former employees was, they said, quote, "That person does not exist. It is a collective consciousness of various different people who come and go." Yeah.
I'm businessing.
The former intern said Yiannopoulos delegated frequently. I wrote articles for him. His articles on Breitbart. He writes some of them, but most no. He has other people writing his shit. So it's about ethics in games journalism, everyone. That's the last thing about harassment I wanted to talk about this week, but it was a big week for it. So that was kind of the hilarious.
Save this.
Yeah, we'll save this. We'll save this and just cut time. Let's just wrap up news stuff because I've been talking for a long time here.
News is good, though.
Let's end on a high note.
I didn't know there was so much news.
A high note, a really truly high note. Decade in the making.
Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy 15 is presumably coming out on September 30th, 2016. This is hilarious. Everybody knows that.
I heard there was a flying Harry Potter car.
There is a flying car, for one. And I can actually get you a gif of it, because it's glorious. Final Fantasy 15 does have a release date. Yeah, Persona 5 is coming. But you see, Persona 5 will come. Persona 5 was in development, and we knew it was in development, and it was coming, and it'll come, and it'll be great. Final Fantasy, the game once known as Versus 13, had a big event this week on Twitch. They had a 3-hour stream, which, come on, really... announcing a whole bunch of stuff, but the big thing that they were going to end with was the release date. Well, here's the thing, because video games are a complicated thing that require press and stuff. So the press found out about the release date before the Twitch video went up. This is important because a lot of the game press uses YouTube now to do their breaking news and everything like that, because everybody uses YouTube. So GameSpot put together a whole video talking about the release date of Final Fantasy 15, about the demo that was going to come out right after the show, which did come out, and everything. And then they uploaded it, and YouTube videos suck to upload. So, what people will sometimes do is they'll upload them as a private video and then turn it live once it's time for the video to pop up so they have it on time. GameSpot did this. Well, the guy whoever did it uploaded it as a public video. The guy who did it uploaded it as a public video, and so everybody knew that there was a demo coming, and the release date was September 30th. And I have to say, I caught maybe an hour of the show. I caught the last hour of the show because I can't be bothered to watch 3 hours of Game Over Greggy.
I mean, if they'd show it like during work, I'd be able to watch the whole thing. Just put that shit on.
I don't need Greg Miller to sell me Final Fantasy 15. That game has been sold to me multiple times. I just wish they'd let me buy it. So, I tuned into it, though. And I have to say, Square Enix took the whole thing on the chin. They really played with the release date thing. So they had this big button. Like, they played through the whole show. They stuck to the script. They had this button, and they're like, we're going to hit the button, and it's not really connected to anything, of course.
Obviously.
We're going to hit the button and reveal the release date. Well, they finally get to it. They bring the director on the game, who's not Nomura, because they had to kick him off to even get this game finished. They bring the director on. He's got this button, and they go and they press the button, and nothing happens. The sound guys don't play the video. Nothing happens on stage for like a minute, and Greg Miller just is like,
womp womp.
It's delayed again. With the producer right there, like in his face, like, you delayed it again, didn't you? And he just takes it on the chin, and he's like, no, you see, I'm just supposed to give the cue, actually. And so he gives the producer gives the cue, and they do like this rolling, scrolling thing here, and it does like 2016, and the day, the 30th, and then it rolls through months really, really slowly, and it stops at November. And they leave it on the screen. And I have to say, I was like, oh my god, they pushed it back just because it leaked, didn't they? That is something that they would do. They're square, and then they're like, "Nah, it's the third. It's
we're
fucking with you know." And it moves up to September 30th, and it was just like they had fun with it. But the cool thing is during the stream, they actually had other stuff to announce that was pretty interesting. So
amazing.
I'm gonna hit these really quick. One, there's a CG Final Fantasy movie for 15 coming, done similar to Advent Children, with a actual like huge voice cast. Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad will be in that, playing a character Nyx. Sean Bean will be playing the King,
and he will die.
King Lucius. Probably the interesting
he will
thing.
Die.
So with that in mind, he's playing Noctis's father in the movie, not in the game. And it's going to be going on while the game is happening, so he might not die until the character dies in the game, which will inevitably happen.
Yes, he will die.
And then Lena Headey, who's also in Game of Thrones, but I know her as Sarah Connor.
Is she naked or no?
No, well, it's CG, so I don't know.
Then I don't know her character.
Well, she gets naked in Game of Thrones.
Oh, then I know her character.
Okay, yeah. So so that will come out. That will come out about the same time around the game's release, before it'll actually release. Also, there's an anime prequel. It's a 5-episode, completely done anime in Japanese with subtitles. You can actually watch the first episode.
Way to do it.
You can actually watch the first episode right now on YouTube. Like, they're all going to be hosted there for free.
Get myself a new waifu.
Get a new waifu, Noctis, and yeah, there's going to be a flying car.
So the most important news.
The car, you know, that makes you think of Harry Potter and the long camping trip.
Actually, more like
transforms into a plane, basically. And
that reminds me more of a Batmobile, to be honest.
And that's what they ended the show with, which was great. And so yeah, the demo did come out after the show, about an hour after the show. I've played it. It's interesting, but we'll talk more about that in a minute with what we're going to discuss.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, the anime you can watch. The cast of the movie will not be the voice cast of the game, so they're sticking to regular gaming voice actors, which I'm actually kind of happy about.
I prefer
because it keeps people in business. There's the gif of the flying car. I actually sat on the floor and just was in shock. I was like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!"
Crystal asks, "So do y'all have waifus?" Yeah, I already told you. Corey from Corey in the House is my waifu. So I don't know about these nerds, but I have the best one.
Barbara Gordon, I guess, it would be my waifu.
Travis's waifu. Do you have a waifu, Peter?
Asexual.
I like how Travis almost ruined his laptop with that response. It's a Batmobile. Basically, it's the Batmobile.
That's what I was
But you notice it has less guns?
Yes. And also, the Batmobile will eventually exist, and this never will.
Yeah, well... The Batmobile is bullcrap, by the way. Like, stand in a big old city like Gotham is supposed to be. Look around the roads, look at the traffic, and tell me that the Batmobile is not bullcrap.
It is.
The Batmobile, like this flying car here, is the most sensible Batmobile I've ever seen.
Yeah. He should just fly around in this little jet.
So
I mean, it's not Grease level, because that car flew because of the power of plot.
Because to quote, I hate everything because movie.
Because movie.
Because movie. Anyway, so yeah, lots of. Also, there's going to be deluxe editions for Final Fantasy 15. One that comes in a steelbook with the Blu-ray.
Yeah, there's a lot of
with the Blu-ray of the movie and as a small art book. And then there's a $270 like Ultimate Edition that me and Matt most assuredly did not buy immediately.
Yeah, we did not buy it at all.
We did not. I did not call him as he was leaving work, freaking out and telling him he needed to get on his computer.
We have to do this waiting list.
Yeah,
if we want to get it.
We definitely didn't put an order in right away, just because.
Oh God.
So,
anyways, that's
just. We might as well leave it there for the news.
That was a lot of news.
Yeah, before we transition though, have you got since this is a game show, have you played video games this week? And if so, what have you played?
What have you played?
What have you played this week?
I've been grinding out Diablo 3.
Okay.
I've also been playing Diablo 3 with Peter and another couple of our friends. So we've been playing that, and we're getting pretty serious to the point where we want like women to swoon over us because of how good we are.
Because of our prowess.
Yeah,
right.
Video game.
Because that's a thing that happens.
So apart from that, I've been recently playing Undertale, as some of you guys in the chat know. A little over 2 weeks, and then a delay because I wanted to kind of prepare for this and everything. And League of Legends, I've been playing that because I still play that game, and I'm Plat 5, so I'm not like Bronze 2. And
I just saw the chat. Sorry. No, most of my time has been consumed
Rust
by Nintendo.
doesn't have dick physics. That's what
you could make
Not
it have
good.
dick
You could,
physics.
though.
I'm sure there's
No, most of mine, despite my anger at Nintendo this week, they've consumed my gaming because I've got Fire Emblem Fates, which I'm still playing through. Slowly but surely, because I have to pace myself on those games. There are so many waifus, though. Since we're talking about that, there's so many waifus. Like, if you just want a game to make people kiss, this is a great game for that. And then I've been playing Hyrule Warriors Legends because I did buy that because I'm a scrub. And I buy games that I hate, apparently. And then I also downloaded Miitomo. And
I heard about
this
that.
game is nonsense.
Oh yeah, Miitomo.
Miitomo.
Let me put it this way. Miitomo
nonsense.
is where adults go to play a kid's game but still say adult things.
Voice emulation games
That's
are still
fair.
the best. Like, this is a Nintendo game where you can
and
curse.
Splatoon,
and,
where you can draw penis.
And I do.
And you
So-
can, like, do dirty things, like, say really dirty things or suggestive things. Funny thing, though, it looks like Nintendo is trying to find a way to get this to work. So there's somebody I was chatting, it was my wife, and they used a swear, just like in their answering of the question. And the app would error out.
What?
And give me like a support code error, so I haven't looked it up yet. The funny thing is, because that error occurs, it keeps looping that answer after a couple of more like replies that she does. It'll loop back to that answer, and the same thing happens. So it looks like they're trying to patch out the F word. So heads up on that.
You're gonna call the
interesting.
support number and it's like a moral support.
Well,
hotline.
no, it's not like a phone number. It's just a support code. So you like Google it and see what's going on. But no, Miitomo is ridiculously dumb. But because it's ridiculously dumb, it's really easy to just look at your phone and dress like a bread.
Maybe while you're at work.
Like,
I don't do that.
That is how I spent all day at work on Thursday, was
Yeah.
playing Miitomo.
Yeah, that's pretty
One
much
of
it.
them is being honest.
Yeah.
I winked at the camera.
Yeah. Wink.
Yeah,
Wink.
well.
So Miitomo, download it.
So when y'all gonna get good and play Toontown? Lindy, I've been playing Toontown since before you were born, okay?
I haven't heard Toontown in like a decade.
That's dated.
You can throw pies at people.
Tell you what, I'll
No,
play
it was pretty
Toontown
great.
when I get Kingdom Hearts 3.
Sounds good to me.
Instead of
Which, Final
side by
Fantasy's
side.
coming out.
Same.
Final Fantasy's coming out, so presumably that means Kingdom Hearts 3 will come out next year. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Literally. I for another show, I got to interview the voice of Donald Duck, and I wasted one of my very precious questions on asking him where the hell that game was.
you made a mistake.
And I literally asked him, I was like, is it coming out before the apocalypse? Like, I'll tell you right now, this is going to be my shtick, is where's Kingdom Hearts 3? Because it's never coming out. I'm like, is it going to come out before the apocalypse? And he just laughs. and
Isn't
he's
Kingdom
like,
Hearts 3
I don't know.
coming 2017?
Maybe.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck. It's
No,
coming out sometime.
It is the
eventually.
official word. Like, if you go watch their trailers that they have, it is officially in development. It's now in development. There's no coming soon. There's
They won't even say coming soon because they could be lying.
It is in development and maybe before Jesus comes back.
That's rough. So
There it is,
apocalypse.
27.
It's
whatever.
Yeah, the apocalypse. So that's my question. Basically, anytime I can ask anyone in power, like, is it coming out
When's
before
Kingdom
the
Hearts
seventh
3?
seal breaks or after? How long do I have to hold out?
So, anyways, that is news for the week. We've had some good news. I think we're gonna go ahead and move on to discussion now.
Actually, this is great because
you have something to share?
Crystal brought up the Game Off, which is another RPG with turn-based fighting
Mm-hmm.
elements.
What is off? Is that an acronym for something?
Well, it's an independently made game like Undertale, not to the same quality of far before. It was made in RPG Maker, so it had a lot of other limitations than Game Maker studios would give you.
Off.
It's kind of an odd game. If you want to pull it up, the graphics are appealing to me, but they're, like we mentioned earlier, just on a lower level. They're
It's
very
a
minimal.
French game, huh?
Yeah, and they did make an English release.
Translated.
Yeah. So there was some support for that, but just speaking of elements of turn-based fighting and RPGs, that's something I wanted to discuss today. So I've got different things.
Yay, segues.
Yeah.
Today we will be discussing.
Thank you.
Today we'll be discussing
a ton of
turn-based
news.
Here's a real
fighting and
here's a real
strategy games.
segue. So I played Platinum Demo, Peter,
Go ahead.
for Final Fantasy 15. I quite liked it. It looks great. It is not a turn-based game.
They've really evolved from that.
I wouldn't say evolved because
installments
Final
anyway.
Fantasy 13 was garbage, but they have
resent you.
they have turned away is the word that I
Okay.
use.
Don't listen to him. It's a great game.
Final Fantasy 15 though is full action combat, which is
Okay.
the first time a main FF title has had
I'm
that.
alright with that.
And it is a shock to play, which is weird because it's not complicated. Like, it's like Assassin's Creed, honestly. You've got the D-pad to assign weapons and stuff, and then you just have attack buttons.
And it does not. It surprises you.
But
that
it's like
Final Fantasy.
But it's like, this is Final Fantasy. What? But you're also supposed to manage your dodging and your warp stuff all at the same time. So there's a learning curve to it. And I think it'll be better than the paradigm shift system of 13 and stuff like that. But that all being said, it is definitely a departure. And being a huge fan of those old games, like, I don't know why Square is so embarrassed of turn-based combat. Like, they're even taking it out for Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, I love it.
That is strange because they were ones who really pioneered that as like a game design.
Square, yep.
So
Back when it was Squaresoft for you old people.
oh yeah.
So let's do this. Let's go down the line. Let's give each of our own personal feelings and opinions on turn-based combat, turn-based strategy.
Like sort of
what you like, what you
okay,
dislike.
yeah.
We'll go down the line. We'll do that, and then we'll move into your discussion topics.
Yeah, no, basically, well, it's not even points or anything.
Yeah.
But a game that I played when I was much younger, PlayStation 1 era, Legend of Dragoon.
Woo!
So what they did
baby.
interesting with their combat, and I pull up a video, there was just a simple cue of like a quick time where it starts your combat, and you have to press, I believe it's X, as, you know, as soon as the video starts.
Press X not to die.
Well, press X to continue your combo, and you can equip this combo before combat, so there's a bit of preparation. And if you fail the combo, you just don't do as much damage. And so you're rewarded for being able to learn these combos.
Hardblade.
Continue to do a lot more. Otherwise, you are accommodated for just your very basic combo being very strong. And you press X once at the right time or two, and that's enough damage for a balanced game. Right. But I like that it's interactive, and it does require you to be involved in the combat instead of just decision making.
Mm-hmm.
I like that interesting aspect about turn-based fighting. So it's not just this character attacks this monster. Obviously, that's just the basic foundation of it, and that's how it started on like the NES, SNES.
Yeah.
But that's something I liked that just grew from turn-based. You want to go?
Yeah, for me, it's I actually like where a lot of modern turn-based games have turned out. I've always loved Pokemon. I love my Pokemons.
Pocket
I've
Minis.
got a lot to say about
Pokemon Silver version is probably the best like single turn-based game I've ever played. My favorite game of all time is actually Knights of the Old Republic, which is also kind of a turn-based game.
Close.
It's fair.
It's more like Final Fantasy VII. But Pokemon just is kind of like the bare bones. Here's a very simplified yet complicated system. There's some caveats to that, honestly, though, because you can't see all the factors that are in play.
Going through the main game, I mean, it is very basic, and there's some points.
And of course,
talk about
it's for children, but yeah.
There is a competitive aspect of it.
There is,
I
but
the goes on a YouTube.
Yeah, that's the thing about that though is I actually find that a downside, not because it's competitive, but because it is difficult, and the developers have not yet made it easier. By the way, there's going to be Sun and Moon footage pretty much after we're done.
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk about that. I might be watching to see if it comes through early. If it does, I will let you all know. Maybe they'll change that. But like, there's so many elements in play with Pokemon that, you know, you've got the stats and also stab and numbers. Like, there's just not a lot you get to see play out. You still can't even see the amount of damage you're actually doing to an opponent in Pokemon. And of course, it's not because they don't want to overwhelm children, which is fine. But you know, it is a complaint that I have for a game that I absolutely love, and I'm allowed to do that. But modern turn-based, I will say, and you're going to get into this a little bit more too, there have been some great innovations in turn-based combat in the past 5 years. And that's why I'm really sad that people think it's outdated.
No, because people could keep coming up with new ideas to keep it fresh or interesting, at least.
I actually am going to.
Whether it's interactive or it focuses on, you need to prepare and know what fights you're going to be in, and you build for that. Monster Hunter, well, it's not like a turn-based at all. You still have to know the mission or the thing you're going to be fighting, and you prepare for it to have a better advantage. And there are a lot of turn-based games that do implement that because something will have a weakness or a strength, and maybe your playstyle up until then doesn't meet those strengths against that boss or that type of enemy. And so you have to learn that and change just through sheer preparation, not necessarily interactive.
And that being said, it looks like the footage did air, so I'm going to try to track it down here while we're...
Go for it.
I'm going to do that while...
show that on stream.
Yeah, move on.
If you want to take it over.
So, I guess for me personally, turn-based is, at its core, actual turn-based is quite possibly my favorite form of gameplay. I love Pokemon, if you can't tell. I don't know why you would think I don't. Pokemon's definitely one of my favorites, but probably my favorite turn-based game of all time, and Travis, I'm sure, is aware, would be Final Fantasy X. And yeah, I know, you can talk however much you want. Final Fantasy 7 is better, blah, blah, blah. You can have
10 is great.
10 is fantastic, okay? When we get into the core and you talk about different types of turn-based, you have active battle systems, so more like, Final Fantasy 13, Final Fantasy, 12, kinda, different systems like that.
Kingdom Hearts did.
Yeah, platformer kind of active battle system, and I think they're great. I just simply don't enjoy them as much as a legit 100% turn-based battle at its core. And that, I think, spawns down to my personality, because I feel like I can strategize a lot more when it comes to actual turn-based battle. I have more time to think out my moves, and personality-wise, that's what I enjoy more, is being able to think of unique and interesting strategies, being able to do that, as I go, have the time to be able to think and plot out. I've played chess my whole life, but I will never play speed chess, ever, because I will lose every freaking time, because I will just run out of time thinking about my moves. So when it comes down to turn-based, there's so many different facets and different types of the turn-based strategy, and I like them all. I really do. But in my opinion, I definitely prefer just turn-based at its core, a la Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy 10, where it's literally
the strong foundation.
That's where turn-based combat was really almost incepted and bred from, is that. So that's my personal favorite. But I'm actually really excited to have this discussion, because I think everybody, regardless of whether you like RPGs or what type of games you like, can really honestly enjoy turn-based games. All the different innovations that game creators are bringing, into the industry with different turn-based stylizations and stuff like that, and incorporating it into other things. I was watching Witwix on Twitch the other day. He was playing, this is so it was basically Diablo meets a card battle game. And it was really cool, and it was interesting. It doesn't really have anything to do with turn-based combat, but just innovations like that, where you can, mold two different forms of gameplay. And we're seeing so much more and more of that as we progress, in the industry. And I love it. I want to see where it goes.
I'll just go ahead and explain a few other things that I picked out of just games that I thought were interesting because of the new mechanic they did.
There's no footage.
That's okay.
There's no footage.
Okay, so Darkest Dungeon. I'm not sure if that's been officially released out of beta yet. But
I don't know.
It's a rogue style game where your party, if they die, they're gone, like a rogue style game. But their turn based is, each class has a certain amount of abilities you can choose from before you go into a dungeon. So there's preparation there. You set what classes you want to use. But the key thing that's different about that is the positioning. Your characters are in a line of 1 through 4, and their abilities can only hit enemies, say, in the 3 and 4 slot of the enemies. Mm-hmm. And they can only cast a certain attack from a certain position. So if there's an enemy that switches around your party, you no longer can even activate those attacks because you're not in the right position to do like a ranged attack, or you're in the back of your party and you can't do a melee on something. I really liked the positioning and the preparation that has to go in for combat in Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah, it's absolutely simplistic in its design.
Exactly.
Like, it's completely simplistic, but it's new and it's difficult to use.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's like the simplest system. But utilizing and actually using it, like I've watched like Tiger Rider and a few other streamers play Darkest Dungeon, and it looks so difficult. Like, even what I've been able to try
out, it's aggressive,
and
it is something else.
I was not able to find something. I'm like missing a bit of information of that game for me to really play it properly or well. I don't know if that was because of a balance issue, because I played it a while ago when it was in beta and they were still working on the game.
Yeah, I had heard that the balance needed to be repaired quite a bit between early access.
That was an initial feeling. Yeah, indeed. But I don't know if it was just something I was misunderstanding as well.
With with Darkest Dungeon and kind of those games, the thing about a simplistic mechanic is that that's the easiest to then subsequently complicate.
It can definitely be complicated. Basic foundation and design is simple.
Yeah, and when run left and jump, just the run right and jump, whatever, Either way, it's just the more simple the base design is, the more you can exploit it. And Darkest Dungeon is a really good example.
In terms
of
of complication, like I personally don't enjoy RPGs or games like that are overcomplicated. But I know plenty of people that like.
But you like Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, yeah. But I see, that's different. I found it rather simple. Simple. That was me personally. But the thing
did you
is,
play any of the others?
I know people who absolutely love the more and more complicated a game is. Like, that's their preference. The more complicated a game is, the more they can delve into it and learn, all these different things. Like look at it this way. Like, Pokemon at its core is a fairly simple game.
Oh, yeah.
But then you get into EVs, IV values, you get into breeding, you get into all this stuff, and it becomes a game of numbers. And
I wish all of that was integrated into the game. I wish there was more to exploit there, because I don't think that it's too complicated. And I think it would become less complicated if I didn't have to go to Smogon every dang time I want to train a Pokemon, and then open my calculator app, and then also...
But the thing about that is that you don't have to.
No,
to enjoy the game, to play the game at its core, you don't have to know what an EV is, what an IV is. You don't have to know how to properly breed. You don't have to know about egg moves or anything like that.
So much. You don't.
You can go on Pokemon Showdown and win a battle with like not IV trained Pokemon or whatever.
Oh yeah.
You're not going to do it all the time, but you can.
You can do that.
But at the core, you can enjoy the game without it.
Exactly. I wish it was just all together to make it easier for those who want to.
Yes, and bringing back Final Fantasy 13, you are right. There's some complicated stuff with the battle system. And it's the opposite spectrum of Pokemon, to where to play the game properly and to actually understand, you have to utilize that.
Yeah, and I think
I completely understand what you're saying.
It just kept throwing it at you. You can get 16 hours into Final Fantasy 13, and then it will reveal a brand new mechanic with its own stupid menu into the mix for no other reason than to try to keep you interested across all 360 discs or whatever.
I don't really like that in a design for a game, to continually have a tutorial and introducing new concepts.
Like I'm cool with throwing. I'm cool with throwing new stuff later on. As long the Zelda games, that's a core thing.
Build on the foundation.
Exactly.
But in the Zelda games, here's a new item that can get you across this type of obstacle.
Exactly, and that's just.
And they can even play with that. I mean, Link Between Worlds was, here's all of your items, figure out what they do.
Yeah, basically.
Which is a great kind of upset of that status quo. So again, the more simple a design, I think, the better it plays out.
EV training Pokemon easier? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because you have ST, where you can actually see a bar going up, but there's still no numbers. You still have to count.
Oh, I came to understand that actually.
Yeah, ST is nice.
It's very quick.
It saves me a lot of time.
Super
training. But if I have to stop playing for 6 hours or whatever, I have to stare at that bar or have a note saved on my phone or something. It's just
you do.
Just don't Destiny me.
I
wrote it down. Go to a website to figure out what's going on.
This is my current.
Yeah,
I'll come back to this later.
Have to.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's like, you know how much...
And that kind of sucks.
You know how much more push you would get back from like people who've been playing these games forever if you just revealed to so many like casual players, look at this whole thing that's going on behind the scenes. You know, it's the Nintendo mythology kind of thing again, where it's pull back the curtain a little bit. You know, let us see what's going on. You know,
but there is a whole community who've already figured out.
Yeah, I know.
Pretty much everything.
But that's not everyone.
True.
You know, we're talking about. I mean, when you think about
but
how
those
many
are what appeal to like
Pokemon.
More like competitive battling.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's saying that somebody that just enjoys the game and isn't going to go compete in the World Championships can't still get more out of it. I mean,
it would be nice.
Yeah,
I try to explain this to people who just enjoy.
Like
this series.
Yeah, and I feel like they could enjoy it more. Like Pokemon X and Y sold millions of copies. Oh, yeah. And, I mean, I don't know how many hits Smogon or Cerebi or anything get, you know, but how many of those are repeated hits and how many of those are the same people, you know. Like there are plenty of people who I think could just enjoy, who could get more out of it without necessarily needing to be so involved that they have to go be a part of these communities and do suspect tests and everything like that. It's just like, tell me all that's going on. Tell me what's going on in this game. Like, 8-year-old me would have appreciated knowing about the special split, you know, and things like that. Like, the game doesn't really go out of its way, especially in the early years, to even explain what its battle system is made out of.
It's changed a little bit. I mean,
playing the re-releases.
Special split.
Well, and that's why it's broken.
So I do want to touch on Pokemon a bit here. So, in Gen 2, when that was very first released.
Hallelujah, Gen 2.
They actually split how their damage works into physical or special damage.
And they rebalanced the types, too, which was very, very important.
Oh, yeah. It would match up...
Ghost and Psychic actually worked.
Yeah, Ghost and Psychic worked properly.
Exactly. But then it would run a check from like a special attack through a Pokemon special defense. And that's a very simple system. And going through the main game, it's fairly simple. You can enjoy it, like we mentioned. But then there's the underlying, like, your Pokemon grows specifically to its experience, which is the EV values. And it is not innately the same strength as another Pokemon.
It's brilliant,
value.
It's brilliant, and I would love to see that more exploited because it would. It's just really the heart of the game anyway. In Gen 2 especially, when they made those changes, the game itself was very reflective of it. When you think about the layout of the first 8 gyms, you know, the 4th gym is a ghost gym, which, you know, for anybody who was coming from the first gen and didn't fully understand, that's a nightmare. You know, the only thing worse would have been another psychic gym, you know, and but even psychic you could at least find a counter for, like a ghost, like a full ghost gym could just exploit the crap out of you.
That was ridiculous.
But by that point you've built a potential team that can do something about that.
See, Lindy brings up Pokemon Stadium, and I mean, so Pokemon Stadium at its core was watered down Pokemon with better graphics. But tell me you damn well didn't love Pokemon Stadium and play the shit out of 1 and 2 and love it.
10-year-old
in fact, I don't like Coliseum because it's not Pokemon Stadium.
Because it's not Pokemon Stadium, right? So, talking about all these, you know, like, you wish that they would incorporate more EV and IV and, like, all these and I agree, I'm with you there. But just like, Linda, you brought up a good point in that even a watered-down system like that, and I'm not saying watered down to be, like, degrading to it, it just really was, and that was their purpose for it, was still so enjoyable.
Oh, yeah.
Was still so enjoyable. So you don't need, that's the point behind it, is that you don't need all of these, you know, internal complicated mechanics to enjoy it. But they're there, and they're available. And I agree that I do wish they would
use them. And so you've got
utilize
this
them.
Extreme of, like, not to degrade by using the word casual players, but someone who just wants to pick up the game and play it and enjoy the main story. But then you go on and you want to battle other players.
That
if you
brings
want to be entirely new mechanics to the game because your team might just have an advantage over the other team. That's a possibility.
And then
but the way you actually have to battle other people is a new mechanic that I haven't even touched on in turn-based fighting is substitution. You have one selected party member at a time, and you choose the matchup for what you're facing.
In Pokemon,
and you have to pull that out for something that'll be better fit for what you're fighting. And you don't need that in the main game at all. but playing against other people,
I actually always play Pokemon on swap. I never do set. I always play on swap. I'm like, they're like, oh, they're sending out this. All right.
Yep. In the main game, I do that every time.
Swap.
Done.
Swap mode is best. Pokemon's pretty unique though because just its setup loads itself to so many. Yeah.
And their
Pokemon's
community
pretty
has
clever.
made it so much more complicated.
They loan themselves to a lot of different game genres too, kind of just like tangent a little bit, but like that's kind of the clever thing about Pokemon uniquely, and maybe that's why they keep it so simplistic, is because they don't want to associate Pokemon as this big, like as just an RPG game, because it's not. Pokemon Stadium was out a year, like within the year that Red and Blue came out here. They had Pokemon Stadium in Japan. Like those first early games, there was like 5 or 6 Pokemon games within a like 2.5 year period. Like, and they were different games. And I mean, even now, you know, if you want to see your Pokemon battle in 3D, where type advantages don't matter, go play Pokken. Which is dope, but that's a whole different thing.
Or you could play Dropkick.
Yeah.
If you're gonna play a fighting game, play Dropkick.
2
buttons. Jump, kick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so you talk about like substitution with a single party member. What about games where you're in control of all the party members at the same time?
More swapping, less substitution.
Yeah, well, okay. So Golden Sun, I'm going to bring that up as well.
Ooh, Golden Sun. I haven't played Golden Sun forever.
It didn't bring anything necessarily new. It just did the very foundations that Final Fantasy had set really well. They brought in the Dijin and little like specials and things, but that doesn't necessarily bring in a new aspect of turn-based.
Well, you know, I actually like it because it almost doubles your party members, but also gives you an extra element of training. Because the Jins were complete characters.
In
that they leveled
and
they
rewarded
could learn.
you from actually exploring the world as well to become stronger and actually attain.
Yeah, it was almost like a Zelda-y type adventure thing where look at this thing you found just by wandering this direction.
Some were just random in the overworld, which they did still have.
That's all I can say about Golden Sun, though, because I haven't played that forever.
It's been a while, but I do appreciate that they took that foundation and did it incredibly well, and it was enjoyable and it wasn't boring because we haven't really outdone turn-based fighting because of all these new innovations.
Right.
Agreed.
So I guess action as well, not just Legend of Dragoon, which I spoke of, but like Paper Mario.
Paper Mario.
Very simple.
So simple.
But it also includes like preparation because you can set badges to have a specific playing style as well as just your prompts.
It's also why Sticker Star is so garbage. Sticker Star...
You gotta collect stickers.
Well, no, Sticker Star throws out the entire RPG element, though, and it's just, let's cut out pretty much a majority of the combat of the game, and when I say that, I mean all of it. Like, there is no attack button. And let's throw items instead, and it's just, Sticker Star. That was the first Nintendo 3DS game where I just closed the lid. I'm like, done! Well, thank you!
There were only really 2 games that stayed true to the Paper Mario origins.
But they were all developed by the same team.
I know.
But Mario and Luigi picked that up after. Which is, in Mario and Luigi's, the entire hook was, you're controlling 2 characters simultaneously, and look what you can do with them, which is very cool. I think turn-based is just so malleable.
Oh yeah,
it's like Play-Doh.
Okay,
because you have that preparation time.
And some people have really just revolutionized
Play-Doh
that
motion
and done that. Do you want to speak on Bravely Default? And
Bravely
what they
Default.
did with turn-based?
Bravely Default is, if you haven't played it, go play it really quick, because Bravely Second comes out in like 2 weeks. I think less, actually. If somebody's wrong, let me know. Or if I'm wrong, let me know. Bravely Default is the game that Square Enix should have been making all this time. In fact, the game did so well that Square Enix was like, ugh, what? This sold well? And like fast-tracked the sequel, and that's why we're getting Final Fantasy VII Remake, honestly, and then they're just going to screw it up by taking the turn-based out.
And it's an episodic
Bravely
as well,
Default. Well, that is a whole different... We're just not going to go into that right now. We'll leave that for another day. Bravely Default started as a Final Fantasy game. It started as a sequel to the 4 Heroes of Light. which was very much classic Final Fantasy. There wasn't a lot going on with it, though, so they wanted to get more ambitious with it. On the other hand, there's Square Enix trying to rebrand Final Fantasy as this big AAA brand type thing. We were on our third Final Fantasy 13 game, and 14 was about to launch.
Wait, there's 3 of them?
There's 3 of them, and they get worse in terms of design as it goes on. Like Final Fantasy 13-2 is like 10-2 in terms of like changing costumes, except it's
except I don't get to stare at Yuna for 40 hours.
Yeah, you get what's her name, Sarah, but it's spelled with an E. Anyway, so they were rebranding Final Fantasy basically. So they basically told them, no, we still want you to make a game because you're good game makers, but make your own thing. So what they did is they said, all right, cool, and Bravely Default was born. Bravely Default has nothing to do with the story. This title has nothing to do with the story and everything to do with its mechanics. The game literally just tells you what it is, and that's the Brave system. So what you do in Bravely Default, I'll loan you this if you want to.
Now I want to point this out. I have never played it.
Neither
Bravely
I have
Default.
watched
I know
playthroughs.
enough.
I aggressively, even if you have watched the entire game we played,
and I have respect
go play
for
it
what they've
because
done.
it's a lot of fun. Because it's almost like what Final Fantasy VII would have been if it stayed on Nintendo. Because the Brave system is based not on the actions you take during your turn, but whether or not you take your turn. You have the ability to basically play with time and either conserve your turns and take multiple turns in a single
no
motion.
longer just
Hit,
my team, their
hit,
team, my team, their team.
Hit, and you can just not do anything in default.
Or you essentially stockpiling your turns.
Or on the reversal, you can go into debt on turns too, and basically rush. You can basically rush an encounter without them even moving. And then they added the job system on top of that, so you can just like all of your characters can be different classes, whatever you want to be, and they could all learn the same things too. So like you could just swap out different combinations of equipment and everything. Okay. The key to I think what makes it work though is the way that they physically designed the game. It's very easy to just decide how your turns are going to go. It's very easy to get information on your opponents.
There's a lot you can do with.
You can control the pace of the battle.
Actually do with your turns.
Like you can control speed, animations, all of that. And most importantly for Bravely Default, which has subsequently become now a thing in most RPGs that Square is putting out, which is good. You can control the encounters themselves. The encounter rate.
I do want to talk about that maybe in a later discussion.
Yeah, the encounter rate you can control because
but I like that.
The other thing about like turn-based type games, a lot of them are encounter-based where you're grinding out leveling.
And it's timed, maybe you're not looking for a battle, maybe you're looking to level.
Yeah. And it's not just turn them on, turn them off. It's I need here, I need here, you know. You have a sliding scale.
That's pretty great.
The PS4 version of Final Fantasy VII is the version that you should go play, even though there's a PC version, because this is in Final Fantasy VII on the PS4. It's only on that one.
Yes.
It makes the game less grindy, not because you don't grind, but because that power is back in your hands. Like Bravely Default basically took all the power of turn-based and put it in the player's hands and said, here, do something with it. Now the cool thing, the hook obviously, is that your opponents have the same powers. They have Brave and Default. They can do these things. And the bosses are ridiculous as a result, because they can just sit there and take punishment, and then for example, there's a water-based boss, like a homunculus type thing, that will default for about 8 turns. Like, you can only default up to 4, but it'll just take punishment. It won't do anything massive, because it will then split itself into 2. And it's frustrating, because you have to really decide who's going to conserve, who's going to attack, who do you push on, and there's no way to just brave out every party member and wipe out this boss at the point of the game that you're in, unless you really do go grind it out for hours and hours.
And that so it was always an element as well.
Oh yeah, but I mean, we're talking hours and hours and hours, because it's paced in a certain way, so where you're not feeling like you get stuck and have to grind it out. And then the thing that sucks,
pacing in a game later on too.
Yeah, the thing about it, like, and Bravely Second, I hope fixes this. It's out in Japan. I haven't looked anything at it, but it's coming here soon. Bravely Default botches the ending because it takes that control away from you and makes you fight every damn boss that you fought throughout the game
So just a
to
little
get
boss
to the
rush
ending.
again.
Well, it's a full boss rush.
Yeah.
It's
Like
not like in Ocarina of Time where you have to quickly power through, you get minuscule versions of the bosses, mini bosses. You have to go through every boss fight consecutively. It is a nightmare. It completely ruins the pacing of the rest of the game, which is a shame. Yes, Zion Curtain is terrible.
Well.
Chat. The Zion Curtain. Oh, if you guys didn't hear me before, by the way, there was a Pokemon video, there was a whole stream, and they were supposed to show Sun and Moon stuff. They just showed the stupid trailer that they showed on the anniversary day. They really did. They just broadcast it on TV. And so apparently we may see something next month. And I'm like, oh, screw you guys. Come on.
Nintendo, the ultimate troll.
So, a couple quick transitions before maybe we wrap it up is controlling your encounters. There's a game for the SNES that did this really well, Earthbound, or Mother. If you had already progressed and your party is stronger than a monster you would encounter, it runs away from you. You visually see it on the screen.
It's scared.
And they'll run away, and you won't encounter it.
Toy
and you can
is
just avoid it.
really good.
So it's not like a
that.
step thing. It's if this sprite on the screen contacts your party because it's attacking you, you get into a battle. If your party is too strong, it runs away from you. If you get into a battle with something that is significantly weaker, it says you win.
Yep.
It doesn't go to a battle.
Nice.
It just says you won the battle, and you get gold experience.
That is very nice.
I really like that. Now, a game inspired by that, Undertale.
Okay.
Turn-based
Do
fighting.
you know how that came about, by the way?
It's more
Why
of
it
the
is
antics in the game.
Well, like what he did before,
Oh,
what Toby Fox
he
did
made,
before.
Like mods or...
The Halloween update.
Yes.
The Halloween update. So he literally cut his teeth on Earthbound. Like, it's not even just like... It's not even just, I was inspired by this. He went in and did it.
Oh, yeah. He
before
even
making his own game. And the Halloween update is terrifying, by the way.
It's incredible. So Toby Fox, if you didn't know, is the he we're talking about, the creator of Undertale.
He has nice legs.
But his inspiration and his experience with working on Earthbound prior...
Is there a picture of his
Undertale,
legs? I have to see this. Sorry.
Probably
please
not.
Pull it up. I don't know. Likely not. But the combat system he did in there is incredibly universal as well. Not just the world that he created and the characters, but the combat system. It took a little bit from what Earthbound had with these unique reactions of, say, a monster steals an inventory item from you, like a cookie, because it's like I think ravens or crows do that or something.
He pulls it off.
But these ravens or crows
in
in Earthbound would have this very unique interaction, and it would steal like an inventory item.
Yeah.
That sort of translated over into Undertale. So you've got that, but you have this new battle system where it involves like a bullet hell and decision making. You're not just fighting every enemy, unless you are.
You're not unless you are.
Which again just has like a slide meter, and you select
it's
where it stops.
People
and that's
who are
kind of your
watching,
power.
by the way, really quick, the less you know about Undertale, the better. So keep that in mind as you listen here.
It's quite enjoyable. I try not to spoil. I just want to talk about
the less you know, even about the battle
You can
system,
kill
because the
everything.
first thing it does is it tricks you on the battle system.
That's fair.
Like the very, very first thing, and the trick about Undertale is that everything that we have talked about is Undertale breaks down on a meta level. Like, if you want a commentary on turn-based games, on RPGs, on video games as a whole, Undertale is something that you should play. Also, Pony Island, because it's ridiculous as hell. But yeah, like, that's the tricky thing about talking about Undertale. I think we're probably far enough away from the game being out that you can keep going, but... Like, if for whatever reason you're like, I really want to play this game right now,
Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, do that, because the less you know, the better.
But I did enjoy the innovations that were implemented in the combat system.
He's got great legs. I will verify that.
Pull it up.
Can
Just
confirm.
put that on the screen for the rest of this.
A picture of Toby Fox in a box.
And he created an incredible game that was...
there you go.
rated as a top game of the year above AAA games by the community because it's just that good.
He's got a terrible choice in shirt, though.
That's that man's sexy legs. It's all right.
He can pull it off. He's pulling it off.
He's got the on point thing
pulling
down.
it off.
While we're still on the topic of being able to control your battles, being able to control your encounter rates, stuff like that, I did want to bring up one that I have actually really enjoyed that's a little different. My second favorite Final Fantasy of all time, Final Fantasy 12, I feel had a take on that I really enjoyed for this reason. Let me put it out there. So if you're not familiar with Final Fantasy 12, it is an overworld game. The entire game you are running through an overworld. Now while you're in cities, there's no battles, there's nothing. While you are on the overworld, it is not the typical Final Fantasy random encounter style where the screen will crack and then you're randomly in a battle. While you're on the overworld, you can see all of the enemies that are there to encounter. They are also on the overworld.
It's an Earthbound style.
Yes, it's similar. You are able to run away from them. You are able to try to sneak around them. Sometimes it's very difficult. Different enemies, with different strengths have different speeds to where they can chase you.
Like
or
Kingdom Hearts combat.
No.
Okay.
Kingdom Hearts is more what you're going to see in Final Fantasy 15.
This is not the battle style, because battles are still turn based more or less. This is just the overworld. So you don't get random encounters just because you walked 15 steps. You see the enemies on the screen and you're able to go, I want to fight that. Walk up to it, and if you get within this distance or whatever, you then start your random encounter with that enemy.
I greatly prefer that in it.
The thing that I love about it, and this was one of my favorite parts of the game when I first got this game. Now I've played Final Fantasy 12 all the way through. I've done low-level challenges. Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started on Yasma. It took me 1 year to beat that bastard. To the day. But here's the thing that blew my mind about the way that Final Fantasy 12 presented its combat system in terms of your random encounters. I don't remember the name of the area, but it's one of the first areas of the game. When you leave the first main town, you're in this big, like, Yanestra Sands or something like that. And you're walking out there, and, there's little enemies, and you've already kind of learned about, how you can see the enemies, choose who you want to fight. And you go through, and then you reach this pass, and you see, right in front of you, the biggest dinosaur, like Tyrannosaurus Rex, that you have ever seen in your life.
It's also incredibly high level.
And that is when fight or flight triggers. Now, you can go, I know I'm going to get my ass kicked by that thing, and you can try to skirt around it, you can choose a different path. But you can also just go, I'm a badass, I think, and I will kill that thing.
And then you'll get bruised.
Now, if you are at the beginning of the game, you enter that battle, and this is like the section of the game that teaches you what it feels like to get your ass kicked. Mm-hmm. Because you enter that battle.
Dark Souls.
Yes. You enter that battle thinking you're all hot to trot and stuff, and that thing one-shots each of your characters with an AoE attack. And you just die.
Oh, my first experience was a one-on-one, one shot. Oh, this is happening. It's inevitable. Dead.
See, but I just
Dead.
loved...
I knew it was happening, and I could do nothing about it at that point.
I loved the feeling that made me have. That, I've already had some battles, and I know, what I'm capable of power-wise. And I understand that sometimes I can run from enemies if I just don't want encounters, if I'm lazy and I just want to get from point A to point B. Or, if I need a grind, I can just pick battles. But when you're walking out there and you see this enemy, and it is huge, and you're just like, I want to kill that so bad, but maybe I shouldn't.
To kill it.
That feeling that I had right there...
you should.
Yes. That feeling right there, and that choice... is one of my favorite feelings that I've ever gotten from a game. I loved that experience the first time I had it. So I wanted to bring that up while we're still talking about just encounters, being able to affect your encounters, choose how many you get, etc., etc. I loved the way that Square Enix presented it in that Final Fantasy game.
I enjoyed it as well. I believe that's one I actually played. I borrowed it from you even years and years ago.
Yes.
So all right then, let's go ahead and we're getting pretty close on time here.
Got about 10 minutes. So,
if there was a game, if you wanted to sum up, if somebody's like, oh, I'm not really into turn-based battling, I don't really like the play style, it's outdated, it's old, what would you tell them to go play?
South Park: The Stick of Truth.
His reasonings are different.
Why?
Oh, okay. So very similar to what Paper Mario did. It's a very basic game. There's a little bit of interactivity.
Very basic. Don't let it fool you.
Incredibly. There's a little bit of interactivity where you can block on command. Mm-hmm. So at the moment of impact, you block, or also do your attacks. Your attacks have a little bit of like interactivity as well, but it's a humorous game. Very minimal artwork that's appealing.
Not for
that's
children.
not at all. In fact,
in any way,
I want to talk about localization at some point because that
was a very localized game.
Yeah, different nations or countries had different releases because of cultural reasons where certain content of the game was...
South Park knows what it's getting into at this point, I think, with that.
At the point, they didn't know about how other countries would respond, and the whole fact that they had to then censor parts of their game outside of America, that was new. And I like reading about that, and we'll talk about that another time.
And I'm sure they were glad to take them to do it so they can get the money, too.
But, so maybe just Paper Mario, realistically.
Either or.
That has the same sort of elements as that.
Right. Somebody's mentioning Australia.
Fun.
Australia is a weird place.
Yeah.
Australia is weirder than Japan.
Very simple game, interactable, a little bit of preparation, and it stays true to the structure of what turn-based fighting is.
If I was going to recommend one, you say Paper Mario. I counter your claim. If you want to play, if you don't like turn-based RPGs or anything like that, you're like, oh, it's old, it's outdated, it's crap, bruh. I want guns and stuff. Play Super Mario RPG. Mm-hmm. Because Super Mario RPG completely takes the piss out of Mario. And what it does instead is it will use the familiar to teach you something entirely new. And that includes Bowser and Peach and they have new characters that are pretty great in there too. But it uses the familiar with an entirely different game style to use an RPG-based game. And I'll tell you right now, Super Mario RPG is still one of the best RPGs that Squaresoft ever put out. And I'm really glad that them and Nintendo have patched things up to where maybe we could get another one.
Well, I mean, that was sort of the idea of Paper Mario, that IP.
To try to follow up on it, but it's
kind of a sequel. And it became its own thing, and that's great.
It did. Just Super Mario RPG just captured... Like, it was one of those fine moments where it was a publisher at its prime and a developer at its prime deciding to do something that hadn't been done yet with the premise of the characters or anything. And I mean, and you have to remember, like, Bowser ends up as a party member. That's not really a spoiler because it's a game that's like 15 years old. You know, so spoiler alerts are dumb. But
it's too late.
It's too late, but still play it because the way, like, getting to that point is worth it just by itself. But getting through the whole game, it's glorious. So that was what like if you like turn-based combat sucks, play Super Mario RPG and then come tell me that it sucks. You won't be able to.
My suggestion is actually going to be on the opposite spectrum because I was just thinking about it for a minute. You know what? Honestly, if you have never played it before, which would, for some people surprising, kind of depends on your age. Honestly, go play Final Fantasy 1. Go play Final Fantasy 1. That is my suggestion. Now,
it's $1 million on Android.
There's a caveat. There's a caveat to that exception. I will actually suggest Final Fantasy 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls
on the
Game Boy Advance.
I'm alright with that. I did play that through.
Because, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Final Fantasy. And the reason I'm suggesting Final Fantasy 1 is because it is literally one of the games that has laid the foundation for what we know of as turn-based combat to this day. But Final Fantasy 1 was released in its time, and there are issues, there are bugs. It is not a perfect game. But I really feel that 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls was able to correct a lot of the things that made it less enjoyable. Mainly game bugs, frame rates, stuff like that.
Do you know if the Android version is the original ROM or if it's
the Android version? The Android version,
and the iOS one.
When I played it, is the original ROM. Okay. So I know it's weird, but I would suggest...
And they want $16 for it.
I would suggest if you have a computer, if you have a Game Boy Advance, whatever, you can get it. Try to find 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls, and I would say play that. 1 is great, 2 is great, but I'd suggest 1. Simply because you guys are suggesting things that can change your opinion of it, that have done things differently, that are good examples of that. I'll just be on the opposite spectrum and say go back to your roots. If you've never played Final Fantasy 1, see where it's coming from. If you've never played it, that's my suggestion.
Cool.
We'll be talking.
Matt likes Final Fantasy more than parts of his body.
Some parts. Not all the parts, just some.
So yeah, cool. Well, I think we should just go ahead and start to wrap it up. We've got a pretty good show here.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
I don't know. This has been good.
it's been
good enough.
It's good enough. Because they said the thing.
They did it!
Before we do though, Matt, since this is its own thing, its own project, let's do some shameless self-promotion.
Oh, yeah, okay.
If people need to see your beautiful face and or put your voice in their ear holes, where can they do that?
I'm Matt Brown. I go by the alias of the Zero Knight on the Twitch. I will put that in the chat, and you can come join the Booty Patrol, which is my chat and my group and my Twitch fantasy. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, approximately 11 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That is possible to change in the future, but that's what we're going for right now. Come join the Booty Patrol and touch some butts.
Cool. And Peter, if people want to listen to your lovely voice,
I stream when I feel like it, but mostly I have an archive of videos on YouTube.
Okay. Is there a place they can go?
There's a link. Boom.
Cool.
And maybe it'll be in the Three Good Sirs channel.
Cool. Yeah, we can.
I will go ahead and link down here, then
doobly-doos
down in the doobly-doos.
And then
all of our channels.
Yeah, so do that. There will be information there. I'm not going to post links to anything because I don't have content up right now.
I'll still post his channel.
I'm going to click on this.
I'm
link
working on a couple of working on a couple projects though. So the best thing to do, if you need to hear my voice into your ear holes as well, just go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Travis Hymas. That's HYMAS, or just on the Three Good Sirs channel, you'll find me there too. And I will let you guys know what wonderful, magnificent things I am doing. There will be a couple of things going up in the next month or so that are really good, especially for both video games and potentially also comic books, if you're lame and don't want to always talk about video games.
More importantly, Dark Souls 3 is coming out.
Yeah,
that episode is inevitably coming. The Dark Souls episode
Dark
where I
Souls.
say nothing.
Well, like the Jimquisition had stated, does this mean we're going to talk about Dark Souls for the next forever?
If Peter has his way,
Yes.
this show is a Dark Souls show.
Yes.
And if you don't hear Dark Souls at least 3 times, assume he's having a stroke.
Yes. Literally a stroke.
Literally.
Yes,
with that,
I am, Lindy. Promise.
Yeah. If not, I will kill him.
But not tomorrow, Monday, because
I'll be
tomorrow's Sunday.
disappointed.
Goober.
I will
cute
kill
little
him.
goober.
Kill
So, but anyways, guys, that has been the show. Thank you so much for joining us for these 2 hours.
It was 2 hours?
Yeah, it was 2 hours. So make sure you come join us next Saturday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We'd love to have you, and
It'll be a little bit shorter, maybe.
yeah, maybe a little bit shorter, maybe not. 2 hours is good, but you know what? All I can tell you guys is I'd say it's good enough.
Yep. Make good choices.
Good enough.